John, back with my bestie Nikki for like the millionth time in the last 2 weeks.
I like it. I don't know about you. I'm very much enjoying our almost nightly chats.
All right, don't take this wrong. I love seeing you nightly, but I'm exhausted.
I know I am too. It's so funny because it's very much like the peak moment, like the peak part of the season where all the athletes were like gone and they were traveling and you got a chance to connect with all
Right,
them at games and we were very much like, hey, like we'd love to have you on the show, want to hear how everything's going. And so they all at the very same time are like, how about now?
right,
Before training ramps up or before the season starts. Like, I'm glad we're catching the people who are available when they are available. It's great. But yeah,
right.
I'm also tired. Let's go back to once a week.
It's tough, man. It's well, it's all self-inflicted on my end too because I booked this like totally solid for the month of September, and I'm in the final month of the third quarter at work. I've ramped up my training at the gym. I changed nutrition. I got a kid that just went off to college. It's like everything that could be going on in my life at one time is happening
Oh,
all at once. And it's most of it
uh-huh.
self-inflicted. So none of that's a complaint by any stretch of the imagination. It's just like I'm exhausted at this
Wait,
point.
I'm
So,
literally in the same boat where like Q4 is coming up. And for anyone working in ecom, Q4 is like our Super Bowl, right? Like holidays, Black Friday, whatever. So I am
right.
buried in work. We just moved into this house. Like, I know it was 2 months ago, but we've only had like 3 whole weekends at home. We're building a new chicken coop because we have chicks in the garage that need to
Oh,
go
I saw that.
somewhere. Yeah,
Saw
huh?
that. Baby
My dog
chickens.
my dog had surgery. We're traveling again in a couple weekends. Like, it's bananas. Completely self-inflicted. Oh, our entire upstairs is a construction zone. Forgot
Oh,
that.
well,
Yeah.
not,
Yeah.
it's going to be like that for a while too, right?
It is. And like carpets tore up, but now hardwoods are on back order. It's bad.
Mhm.
Mm,
Check out
mm.
my mug. I have my mug tonight.
What does it say?
Hey, best
Best
cat dad
cat
ever.
dad
Look what he's
ever. And
doing.
he's giving
Doing his
little
thing.
fingies.
Yeah, it's Bean.
Oh, yeah, it is Bean.
Yeah, it's Bean.
Ah.
Yeah, so
Well, I think worth saying we are bummed because tonight we were supposed to be live with Freya Moosbrugger, and well, Canada strikes again.
I know, man. I said off the air, they've got amazing free healthcare, and they have AOL dial-up out on that West Coast because it's our second one. Where between her and Pat, where we just can't seem to get the connection to work on their end. And it's on
Yeah, it's
their
a
end,
bummer.
so it's a
But
bummer.
she was on and she was available. She didn't stand us up, and we want to reschedule with her when we can get her in a
Right,
place that has excellent service or connection, or maybe even
right.
live if we can catch her at a competition. Because she kind of like burst out onto the scene this season, and I'm super excited to get to know her a little bit more. And I want to make sure that everyone can like hear what she has to say. So that's coming, unfortunately.
I know she's
Just didn't
very
work out
cool.
tonight.
I love talking to these kind of new young CrossFitters. I don't know. It's hard to describe other than, you just get the sense of how excited they are and how much fun they're having. And I just love watching people have fun, like to really get excited about what they're doing. And so to hear as they're starting their journey is really fun for me, so it's a bummer that we couldn't seem to get that to work, but
Yeah.
so be it.
We will
We'll get her
though. We'll
back.
catch up with her. Yeah, I agree though. That's a great perspective because I feel like the competitive CrossFitters journey now is so different from even like 5 years ago. And so like hearing how these people are sort of like training and ramping up and coming up and inspired by, the OGs who are really only like 30-year-old CrossFitters. We're old. It's just fun. It's fun. It's fun to see the evolution of all of that on the competitive
Yeah,
side of the sport.
for real. Well, we can talk about other things. There's other things to talk about.
There are. There absolutely are.
I
I
did.
want to know
I did
about
some.
your training and how you're prepping for your big debut.
Oh, all right. We'll talk about that first. It's going okay. It's brutal. I'm not really sure where to start. I mean, trying to do the combination of a nutrition plan and kind of a new workout structure. It makes sense that that's the way you should do it. But man, it's hard to like focus on two things at once, and then also have work and life and like all the other things that go along with it. Not to mention I'm ramping up the training, so it's kind of hard to really dial in the nutrition because your body's like, give me all the food, give me everything, you know? So that
Yeah.
it's been tough in that regard. And the training's hard because I'm focusing on a lot of weaknesses. And, so it's become training that I don't like to do, but is necessary. So it's not as much fun. It's just going to class and hanging out with your buddies and doing
Yeah.
whatever. So
Yeah. It's like eating your vegetables.
yeah, pretty much. So it's and we're testing a lot of different things and like, trying to figure out what's working and what isn't. And so it's a lot of ski erg, which I don't like, and a lot of sandbag work and assault bike and you just name everything that I'm not good at and we're throwing it in, and it's a lot of work. So right now
Yeah.
I'm kind of beat up and I got to get a couple little tweaks here and there. So I'm kind of working through some injuries but with all that said, I am happy with, some of the like, I feel like I'm learning stuff every workout. I feel like my progress is on track and I have a lot of time still, but I absolutely feel like I'm learning things and getting better in some areas and I'm able to hold on longer in some workouts where I wouldn't have been able to a few weeks ago even, so far so good. It feels really early considering this thing's, second week of January. Somebody said to me, they're like, you're starting way too early. You should start like maybe last week of December. I'm like, yeah, that's a great idea. 2 weeks, give me like full week ramp up and then a taper week and I'm good to go.
Oh my God. Who said that? Someone who doesn't understand training
No,
methodology at
someone who
all?
does understand training and they were busting my balls just being funny.
Oh, I was gonna say maybe if you're just like really a high level games athlete, that's all you need to prepare for a competition. But
Well, and work life has become tough. So like have been having to do some workouts at home. Like I worked out at home today, and working out at home, like it sucks. Like it really, especially if it's kind of a longer, harder workout, and you have to really focus on what you're doing, and you're trying to get a real like kind of test of what your score should be. Doing that at home by yourself, man, it's hard to push through.
yeah, I don't know if I'd be able to do that.
Well, I'm not sure I am either, but I'm giving it my best go. So, yeah.
That's awesome. That's good. I'm glad that you have this test because it's been a little while since I mean, like last year, I feel like you were doing the nutrition thing for a little bit. And it's always nice to just like get a new test, get a new benchmark, get a new goal post out there. And periodically I feel like we all crave that, right? Like that's so very much who we are within the CrossFit community. You kind of like you need a goal, you need something to work toward, you need something to dial in, and then you need to just kind of like fuck off for a while. And then you do it all over
Yeah.
again. The cycle
It's
of
just
CrossFit.
hard, man. Like I keep telling myself, don't be disappointed in January. That's all I keep telling myself. As hard as the things
Wait,
are
what do
now,
you
and as much as I don't
mean?
like it. Well, I just want
Oh,
to give
like
my
that's
best
the
effort.
goal. I
Yeah.
see. I
The
see.
goal is to not be disappointed in January. So the fact that everything sucks right now, I'm telling myself it's okay that it sucks right now. Like that it's hard and that I don't like it because what I don't want to happen is to go do this thing in January and have regret. I don't care like what my score ends up being necessarily. I mean, I want to post my best score possible, but I don't care about beating people. I just care about being the best version of me when I get there. And if I get there and look back and go, hey, I didn't go hard enough in December, or I didn't focus enough on nutrition, or I could have done, this other thing different, I'll be really disappointed. So that for me,
Yeah.
that's the goal is like put in good work now. Like,
Yeah.
and then have fun once I get there. So
And then tequila.
and then all the tequila. All the
Yeah.
tequila. So yeah,
That's perfect.
it's weird. It's just a weird
Yeah.
thing. I certainly have far more respect for people that, and I'm not comparing myself to any kind of real athlete here, but the people that do this for a living that actually train really hard every day and it's their job, like talk about total respect. Like when you have the
Mm.
dedication to dial in for hours a day and keep your nutrition in check and it's hard. I think of like Pat, who's got a family and a job and still competing at the highest level. Like, man, I don't think he gets enough credit for that. Gives credit for
Yeah,
being a
I
great
agree.
athlete, but not how hard that is.
Yeah. The balance is insane. Yeah, I'll tell you what I was thinking, what gets me is like I was watching on Instagram like Danny traveling through Europe and like taking a little bit of a well deserved a little bit of a break after games and like
Mhm.
getting gelato all through Italy and
Right.
whatever, and then coming back and starting her training. And I'm like, for me, like when I hit a period of like I'm taking a break or I'm not really paying attention to my nutrition or whatever, like restarting any of that is the most difficult thing in the world. Matt is
Right.
making the biggest racket in the kitchen. Can you hear
It's
it?
all good.
It's like insane. It's okay.
It's all good.
It's a pain in the ass for my entire family that I am still working from and podcasting from the dining room table.
I was just thinking the other day, I needed to like go shopping and buy Matt a gift and send it to him for his generosity for the amount of time he's loaned you to me for all these shows. Cause that dude is a saint. He is a
He is.
saint.
He is. He's doing a lot of one-on-one dad time to let me do all these podcasts, which is fun. But it's hilarious. Like we are in the process of setting up my home office, which is going to be just the most awesome like office podcast studio. Like I'll be able to like do whatever internet content I need, you know, just like it's such a pain in the ass when you like, you know, you set up your ring light to like shoot something and then it's just like out in a corner somewhere for the rest of the month before you're like, shit, where does this go? Or put it away. So I have like big plans for that office, but man, home construction moves slow.
Yes, it does.
Slow. It's like a lot we got to do in there. So that's the beautiful background soundtrack of all of our podcasts is me like in the dining room while Matt's trying to like give the baby dinner and like go through the fridge. Everyone, all of our listeners are just in my house with me. That's what we're doing here.
Hey, I love it. I did have a topic tonight. Actually, we were going to talk to Freya about this, but since she's not on, we'll talk amongst ourselves. So, it's kind of been on my mind all week, but I saw this today. So I did a charity event today and I was at the food bank and we're handing out food. It's a really cool event. They do this in Cleveland. They do it down the municipal lot. They call it the Muni lot here in Cleveland. People tailgate there for the Browns games. So we all go to commiserate and be sad. And, so what the food bank does is they set up these stations and cars come through and you're feeding families and they write on the window how many families are being fed. And then we're told how much stuff you should give them. Right. And so it's basically, you know, these huge bags of potatoes and there's a couple of produce boxes and frozen roaster chickens and breads and like lots of food. Right. And it's a cool event. And we were there from, noon till about 4:30. And it's just like literally just lines of cars all day long, so you're feeding thousands of families.
The families themselves come up?
Well, like, someone for the family will come, pull through in their car and you'll load the car for food. So it's almost like they're going to the grocery store and you're loading their car for them,
Oh, cool. Love it.
Yeah, it's a cool event, right? It's something we do at work. We give back and, partner with the food bank. Anyway, I'm in line or I'm sitting there doing this and it's all employees. And a lot of these people work for me. And there's a young woman who works for me that's kind of to my left. And I see a car across from me and keep in mind these cars are coming. So we have to be very cognizant of where the cars are so they don't hit us. And they're not driving slow usually. And so one of the cars stops in the middle of the roadway and he's like holding up the line and he's shouting something. And I'm trying to figure out what he's shouting. He's holding everybody up, and there's loud music because we're, trying to keep ourselves occupied. And I realize he's catcalling her.
No, get the fuck out. Are you serious?
And I'm sitting there going, you can't even go to a charity event as a woman without getting catcalled. Like, how does that happen in this day and age? Now I'm not really going to repeat what he said. And what he said wasn't vulgar. I'm not giving an excuse to him. He was hitting on her in the middle of a charity event, but he's catcalling her, I think he thought he was being funny. But I'm just sitting there going, man, like so tough as a woman to like have to deal with this stuff. And it made me think of something that happened last week. I haven't had a chance to talk to you about. A different YouTube channel actually clipped a video out of our Haley Adams interview.
Really?
And
yes.
Did you
I commented about this. No, I haven't watched it yet, which is why I haven't made lots of comments yet. But anyway, keep going.
Yeah, so it's this page, Jason CrossFit Media, I think is the name of the page. And I kind of know him. I was on his podcast once. Very nice dude.
I was too once. Yeah, very sweet.
Yeah, he's in the UK. And he has, I would define his show as dispassionate. And what I mean by that is like he just kind of reports the news as it is and creates conversation. He doesn't really give personal opinion. He just like kind of reports what he heard, and so the topic of this show is, should you be allowed to talk about women's bodies in sport?
Right. Athletes' bodies.
Yeah. Which I was, I was listening to it and there were so many comments coming in on it. And I felt like we were taking a little out of context for whatever that's worth. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I mean, people can kind of create whatever context they want, but I know what we meant and how they were taking it. And those are two different things. So I wanted to clear some of that
Yes.
up. And that
Yeah,
was
I
a
agree.
kind of an important topic for us to talk about. So we can just talk about it now,
Yeah,
so.
so I did see that, and I did see the question was, we talked to Haley about how so many people were commenting on how she's small and she needs to get bigger if she wants to get stronger, and of course, like, she's so lean, obviously, like, strength is going to be an issue
Right.
for her. Like, that's the kind of quote unquote, sorry, I have a 1-year-old. That's the
No,
kind
it's
of
good.
quote unquote talking about women's bodies that we were discussing. And I think what happened was Jason brought in some professional commentators from the CrossFit space, like Chase or like Brian Friend, whose job is to report on and comment on and discuss what is happening in the sport and on the field of play. And the question, can we talk about athletes' bodies, is far too general in comparison to what we were talking to Haley about. We were talking to Haley about internet trolls that come onto your page and say things about your body, yes, in the context of sport, but without any context of her and her life, that don't mean anything because they're not professionals and they're not her trainers. And the specificity of, you're a small woman and so you must need to work on your strength, is very different from commenting on how someone may or may not be physically built on the field of play. I don't
Right.
think Haley is going to say, when you're watching me lift, if you say that I am quite literally smaller than someone right next to me. I did it when Danny and Jacqueline Dahlstrom were
Yeah.
lifting the sandbag. I was like, you are you're different athletes. You have different strengths and you're built
Yeah.
differently. And yet you are both at the end of this sandbag ladder. That's amazing. And that was kind of like a jumping off point. But I don't think, number one, I don't think it's fair to just take our conversation and generally be like, does that mean we're not allowed to talk about how people are built? Because that's not what we were talking about. We're talking about like internet trolls
Right.
and what effectively becomes like preying on a woman's body, not an athlete on the field
Right.
of play who's literally doing a thing. And number two, I found it really off-putting, and I have not watched the whole thing, so there will be additional context there that I'm missing, but I found it really off-putting that there were no women in that conversation. There are a number of women who commentate in our sport. There's Tanya Wagner, there's Annie Sakamoto, there's Jamie Haigia, there's me.
Right.
And there's a number of women who could have been brought. There's Katie Henniger, who's been on many times. There's Marco Alvarez, who's on the Rogue Show. Like, let's bring a fucking woman into this conversation. If it's sparked by, hey, here's a girl who people are saying shit about on the internet to her about her body. Let's bring a woman into this conversation for analysis.
Right.
That was off-putting to me.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought of it from
Rant
that
over.
aspect, and I guess it's fair. I don't know Jason that well. I mean, I think he's got a relatively new page, so I don't know how well his connections are to reach out to any of those people. But to your point, he could have. It's not an excuse. He certainly could help. I mean, I actually messaged him. I'm like, hey, a heads up that you're going to use my clip would have been handy, and I probably should have said to him, I'm happy to introduce you to some of those people because I know all of them.
Right.
Like,
Right.
I'd be happy to facilitate an introduction. But all that aside, the thing that got me about it was I mean, where I felt it was out of context, and a little bit of it's my fault because maybe I wasn't as clear as I should have been when I posed the question to Haley. I said to her, are you still getting those types of comments online? What I meant by that was we had previous conversations with Haley where men would message her and say, you should wear booty shorts.
Yeah,
Or
we
you
have had those
should wear
conversations with
sports
her.
bras and why do you wear baggy shirts? Are you ashamed of your body? Like, creeps wanting to see more skin.
Yes.
And Haley, kind of notoriously likes to wear big baggy shirts and running shorts. And she's not an athlete that shows a lot of skin, and that's perfectly fine. That's her prerogative and the way she likes to work out. And, and so that was my point of the question was she still getting some of that? And, clearly we were talking about the people commenting that she needed to put on weight or get stronger or whatever. And I don't know, like it just felt weird. I don't ever like being part of the story, whatever that's worth.
Yeah, I don't either. I just think it's a really different conversation when you have someone on a podcast and you're talking about when she gets comments online that make her feel uncomfortable, because that was really where that conversation was
Yeah,
going, where she felt uncomfortable when people reach out and they're like, you need to get bigger, you need to put on weight or whatever, or like obviously you need to train this weakness because your legs are so small. Like
right,
that's where our conversation was centered. And to take that and be like, generally, like, are we allowed to talk about, because and this is where Jason got that too. Like it didn't come out of nowhere, because like in having that really informal conversation, I'm pretty sure Haley and I landed on, can we just stop talking about people's bodies,
right.
please? Like that is where we landed. But like the context and the journey to get there is obviously so fraught with like, because the internet is a dumpster fire, because people cannot like keep their mouths shut, because men are creepy. Like there's a lot of context wrapped into that sentence. It is not apples to apples to then take that and be like, in sports, when we're looking at athletes and how they're built and what their capabilities are and what their maxes are and whatever, can we talk about people's bodies? It's just not the same context in that question. So
Yeah, I think there are some, when you're talking about athletes, I think it's fair to talk about body types and things that work and don't. And, I think it's would be fair. We often talk about like, Fikowski as an example is tall, and there are things that are hard for him because he's tall. Now I know it's uncontrollable for him for the, but still, it's a body type. Um, and like we've talked about Danny before, where, Danny's a bigger athlete and it certainly behooves her for that, for like the sandbag ladder, but it hurts her in other categories. I think it's okay to talk about that in the realm of some athletes are not going to be good at some movements based on these external factors, whatever, they may be,
yes, I
I
have no
start
problem with that type of analysis.
Yeah, I just start to have problems when, Bruce come in and said, "Don't forget about Colton." Yeah, we always talk about how short Colton is, and and I think it's okay to have that type of analysis for sure. It gets far different though, because what's happening in Haley's case is people are straight up messaging her
Hmm.
and saying things to her, and some of it
Hmm.
I'm sure is well intentioned, but some of it's just creepy as hell,
It's
and
all and all unnecessary. Like this is a professional athlete. We are the only sport where the professional athletes are so accessible. And I
right.
love that we have that community element of it, but like, you are not her coach. You are not her nutritionist. You do not need to tell her what she should or shouldn't be doing in the realm of how it will affect her body.
Well, and they don't have
Period.
the full story. Like, you
Right.
say, well, if you put on more weight, you'd be stronger. Well, that's not true. That's absolutely not true. Because you can look at Mal O'Brien, who probably weighs exactly the same or damn near close to it, and can outlift her like nobody's business. She's just a stronger athlete. She's better at lifting. Like, no offense to Haley, it's just, like a
Yeah.
fact. And
Right.
so,
And she would take no offense. Yeah. And her personal plan is, I'm gonna work on my nutrition so that I can fuel my strength. And if that
yeah,
means putting on some pounds, then that's cool. But that is something that she will work out with her team, you know?
yeah, yeah. It's just weird. Like the whole thing just felt very weird to me. I like your thought though that I would love to see, maybe you should do this for one of your focused on female, but bring a few of the women in the sport together, get Jamie and maybe Lauren
Mhm.
or Annie, and you guys
Yep.
have a roundtable and discuss it, because I would love some of their opinions. Like I'm sure Annie Sakamoto is a great example of someone who's been in the sport as a competitor, and she's been, as an analyst. I'd love to hear her opinion on this,
Yeah.
because I
That's a great
guarantee you
topic.
she's heard everything said about women in the time she's done this.
Yeah. Yeah, I would love that. And I think in general, we need to bring more women into that type of a conversation high level. We need more people on the media staff, in the media team, on the front end, on the back end. We've got some really talented women like in the trucks that help run the show. I would just like to see more of that in the discussion, because otherwise it's just a group of men talking about if we can talk about women's bodies. Like we need a seat at that table. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, like we got to level up the sport. That's part. CrossFit's got a kind of a long history not a great history of how women have been viewed in the sport. And there's a lot of great things they've done for women in the sport. So I'm not taking a shot at
Agreed.
anybody. I'm not being woke. But when you look back at the early days when we started a decade ago, you'd watch some of this filming and damn, they'd have these cameras all the way up these women's asses doing sled pushes. And it was totally intentional. It wasn't like an accidental thing. Like they were,
Yeah.
trying to drive viewership. I mean, that's just what was going on at the time. It's far
Yeah,
different
we've
now,
come a
but
long way. We've come a
yeah,
long way. There's a lot that we've done to empower women in the sport, and women are absolutely seen as equals. And there's no like discrepancy between the men's side of the competition and the women's side. I love all of that. And we're expanding the commentators, we're expanding our team, we're expanding. It's really good. It's all good. But that was just the one thing that really stuck out to me. And again, have not watched Jason's full video, so I'm sure there's context that I'm
right.
missing. But it just struck me when he was like, I reached out to like Chase and Brian and we wanted to talk about it. And I was like, really? Like, where's the vagina at this table? I need one for
You should put that on a
representation,
shirt. Where's
please.
the vagina? That'd be a great T-shirt for you to
Do you
start selling.
remember? Do you remember when we would talk to Jess Fithen about her "You Look Like a Man" page, and she
Yes,
sent us the vaginas in the weight room shirts?
yes,
I love those shirts.
those were the best. I will say,
Yeah.
in defense of the conversation or people having it, CrossFit is a very unique sport, different than most, where you do have dozens of body types that can be
Yeah.
successful. Whereas,
Totally.
you look at like as some examples, ice skating would be a good one where, they all are typical same body types. Gymnastics, mostly similar body types. Swimming,
Correct.
all kind of the same body types. Now different from each sport, they all have different body types, but for that sport, there's one. Whereas in,
Hmm.
functional fitness, where you have to do a lot of different things, you end up with people that look like Mal O'Brien, or people that look like Laura Horvath, people that look like Danny Spiegel, and people that look like Haley, and
Yeah.
they're wildly
Absolutely.
different body types. And so I think that lends, and we all get our favorites. So it lends you to go, well, if you looked more like so-and-so, you'd be more successful, and
Hmm.
without thinking about how that's coming off, it's just,
Yes. And also without understanding that that is not always true. It's just not.
yeah,
But yeah, there's a Ryan in the comments. I love how normal people are trying to train world-class athletes like via DM. It's so true. Like people
right.
just don't know what they're talking about. So I do think that that was really the crux of our conversation in discussing women's bodies was like these are people like online in the comments in DMs. I don't
Yeah.
think it's a one-to-one relation to the question of can we talk about people's bodies? But in fairness to Jason, we definitely posed it that way. At the end of the
Yeah.
conversation, we were straight up like, let's just not ever talk about people's bodies. But I feel like that was just out of frustration,
Yeah, I thought his
for
video was
what's been
good. I
happening to
watched his
Haley.
video. I watched his video. I thought it was very good. I mean,
Great.
he puts together good content. I don't think he was taking a shot. As a matter of fact, I was grateful he was, he watches our show and used the clip. I mean, it was, I prefer to be
It's proof
asked, but it didn't bother, it
proof
didn't
that
really
it's
bother
more
me.
than just our moms still.
There's at least 3 people, at
At
least.
least.
But it's just interesting. Bruce has said in the comments, and he's absolutely right. We are the only sport where women get paid equal, and some make more. Like Tia made more money than anyone in the sport this year, from earnings. And so it is a very cool sport where women can earn more, but it does feel at times like the critiques around body type for women are different than the critiques around body type for men. And I don't know why that is. Maybe just because it's kind of a male heavy commentator sport. Maybe, I don't know.
Maybe.
Um,
Maybe because there's more variability in the women and their
maybe,
sizing. Most of the dudes look the same with the exception of height.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think on the men's side you hear a lot about height, and but you hear things like, oh, he needs to get bigger, he needs to get stronger. You know, women, I feel like women are catching it from both sides. They hear some of that too, which again I think is fair. I think it's fair to
Yeah, I
say
agree.
someone needs to get bigger,
Oops.
or stronger, or smaller, or whatever the critique may be for them. But then they are also catching, so many of the comments said Danny Spiegel's DMs are probably crazy, and they are. And that's the problem is like, they're also catching people going, hey, I want to be a foot worshiper, and, and like all the grossness that comes with the internet, it's so bad.
All this whole discussion is full circle to the first the first story that you brought up, where in general, like, it's just fucking impossible being a woman. It is. Like, you can't escape those comments. You can't escape them online. You can't escape them when you're at a charity event in a parking lot trying to fill trucks with potatoes. Like, that
Well,
unfortunately is just fucking everywhere.
well, here's a heartbreaking story for you. My daughter came home the other day. She'd gone to see a friend. She doesn't drive. And so she had to go downtown, and in Cleveland, we have the Rapid RTA. It's a train, and it
Mhm.
runs from this side of town all the way into a building called Tower City, which is right in the heart of downtown. And if you've never been to downtown Cleveland, not always the safest. It's
Okay.
not a bad city, but but it has its moments for sure.
Okay.
And I didn't realize she was going down there. Where she, so she's relaying the story to me. I'm like, "Oh, how was the Rapid?" She's like, "Well, I didn't realize the Guardians, our baseball team, were playing, and so it was really busy. Lots of people on the train." And she's like, "When I got down there, there's kind of people everywhere." And so she's like, my guard was up. I was really, on high alert. I'm like, "Well, what's that mean for you?" And then I'm just starting to ask her because I'm curious, like how she thinks. She's like, "Well, for one, I didn't have my hair in a ponytail." I'm like, "Why?" And she's like, "Because I heard often, sex traffickers or people wanting to kidnap you will grab you by your ponytail because you're easier to handle that way."
Amazing.
And it just broke my heart that she, as a woman, she has to think, all right, she's literally thinking, I have to keep my phone in my pocket. I have to know
Mhm.
exactly where I'm going. She's like, and she said to me, there'd be people standing on the side and I'd walk past them and then they would step out and start walking behind me. And I'm thinking I'm being followed,
Yep.
and,
Mhm.
she's just a young woman. She's, 20 years old.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I'm just
I
thinking, man,
can't.
this is her reality for probably the rest of her life. And
Oh,
it's
yes.
heartbreaking,
It's
and
awful. It's
it makes me
awful.
wanna help her go get her get her a concealed carry and buy her a gun, if I'm
Yeah.
honest, you
Uh-huh.
know?
I've carried mace ever since college. I've carried mace since college. Keep a nightstick in my car. I have can't even tell you how often I walk to my car with my keys between my fingers. It's not a joke.
Yeah,
And we did an
yeah.
episode, this is a long time ago now. We should probably do another one, but we did an episode with some really cool chicks that John knows, like internet friends. We always talk about our internet friends. Um, God, was it like a year ago?
I think
Maybe,
it's longer than
maybe
that. Yeah,
more.
yeah.
Yeah, and it was just a bunch of regular chicks in fitness who oftentimes deal with sketchy people online, sketchy people in real life, and talking about kind of that female experience. And I really strongly encourage everyone to go back and listen to it because it was one of the most important episodes I think we've done, and nothing has changed. Like, nothing is different. All of that is still really pertinent to just what you have to deal with
Well, and then
every
I'm
single
reading
day.
comments today, Morning Chalk Up had this is related, but did you see this post about the gym I think it was in maybe South Africa, that
Is it
where
with the camera?
yeah, got a camera in the women's bathroom or just in the bathroom in general. I'm like, "Oh, you're killing me." Like, yeah, I
Mhm.
kind of want to talk to. We're going to have Don Fall on, the new CEO here in October, and I don't want to talk to him about that specifically, but I think I've mentioned on the show before. I think there's real reputational risk to CrossFit, unless they start helping affiliates really understand, how to manage human resources in their buildings. And I wouldn't have prohibited
Mm,
this clearly, right? But you could think if CrossFit had some, uh, you know, stop guards in place, like background checks on new owners. And, you teach human resources. So when you have some rogue coach out there sexually harassing members, the owner will still have to deal with it. And it clearly won't keep it from happening, but it protects the reputational risk of the business. So if CrossFit doesn't look like they don't give a shit. For me, that's
yeah,
the fear because I love CrossFit and I don't want to see, like, this happens 2 or 3 more times. People will start asking questions. Well, what's CrossFit doing about it? It's just, I just don't want to see the reputation the of the brand become one that's not safe for people to come into, even if it isn't
yeah,
true. Reputation doesn't have to be true,
yeah. That's true.
unfortunately.
It's just what
You
people
know,
think. That's all that's
yeah,
important.
that's
No,
the
that's a good
point.
question. Yeah, and I don't know because I have an L2 and I've been coaching forever, but I don't own a gym, so I don't know what they provide Is there like a guidebook, or is there like anything along
I
those
don't know.
lines in terms of that kind of stuff?
I
I will
don't
say
think
that
so, but
I'm
I'd like to ask. I'd like to know.
yeah. Yeah. I will say that I feel like I'm glad that for the most part, we are not typically in that conversation. You hear a lot more about like
Mm,
Globo gyms or personal
yeah,
trainers or
for
whatever. I
sure.
mean, you shouldn't hear any of it, but this is the reality of the world. I feel like for the most part, we're not in that conversation as much, which is great. But then when it does happen, it like I feel like it just shakes the entire community, right? Like I don't know. We are all just like we can all picture ourselves in our own gyms being like, "Oh my god, like what if that happened to me?" Or as a woman at least that's where I'm like, "What the hell? How could
Well,
that could happen anywhere?"
I
It's so
guess that's the point
scary.
is like I think we feel like it's the makeup of CrossFit has always been first responders and cops and firemen and and just salt of the earth people, and it's full of amazing people, and it's part of
Mhm.
why I think you and I love it so much.
Mhm.
That's why I worry about the reputational risk because it only takes one or two creeps sneaking in and us having no stopgaps in place to keep it from happening, or at least to try to check it for the reputation of CrossFit to start shifting. And then you put
Yeah.
it in light of everything that happened a couple of years ago, and then people really start asking questions. And again, I'm not trying to dredge up old stuff. Like I don't. I think my opinion on that's been pretty clear from the very beginning. I just think that um, I just remember all those New York Times articles as an example, and people asking questions, and I just don't want to see us go through that again. That's all.
Yeah.
You know.
No, I agree. I agree. I don't want to be there. I don't think we will. But
No,
that
I
was
don't
a
either.
really that was a really scary article to read.
Well, I look. Yeah, I don't know. Hopefully it's it'll be taken care of at the local level. I hate seeing articles saying CrossFit this happens at a CrossFit gym. Like
I know, because like sometimes the general public doesn't really understand that we're all so independent. All the gyms are so independent from one another. But
yeah, I gotta believe there's a little part of me is like there's probably gonna be a follow up article that say you know local first responder that belongs to CrossFit gym beats the shit out of this coach. Like that's probably
mhm.
because I also that's the thing I love about our community where it's very protective of itself. And like I just think the gyms I've been like, man, if that had happened, I am thinking some of the people in my gym would have been going after that dude for sure. It's like as
I
they
know.
should.
Was it a coach? I'm gonna look it up, or was it an owner?
Yeah, one or the other. I don't remember, to be honest. I just know like over the years I've heard all these. My point to all this is like I think we've all heard these stories over the years of there's always a coach who hits on all the new girls. I'm laughing because I've heard it so many times, not because it's funny. Um, hits on all the new girls, and I just think that from a reputational risk, CrossFit could add some training to or just provide it as an option. I'm not even sure they have to force it. Just provide it as an option. If you want it as an owner, here it is to you. If you choose not to do it, it's your choice.
Mm,
But we're
yeah.
going to provide it to you. $3,000 you're spending. You know,
Yeah.
it makes sense
Yeah.
to me as a business owner that I could protect my brand by offering this to someone. If they choose to not do it and something bad happens, as the person who owns the brand, I can say that's their fault, not my fault. I offered them a solution. They chose to not take it.
Yeah, I think you should ask when Dawn's on the show because I'd be curious to know. I bet there's some stuff already, but I'd be curious to know.
I hope so.
Yeah.
It was just, but and then same thing as we see it in the comments here is the comment section of that article or just a big dumpster fire of I always go in going I'm so hopeful that people are going to be like, yeah, this guy's an asshole, and there was a lot of that, and then there's always the one or two guys that are going, why is this news? I'm like, you're killing me.
Right.
Like you're
I saw that too,
you
and then
know
I had to get out of the comments immediately. Why is this news? Are you serious?
I know
Oh
it's
my
just funny to
god.
me. It's all becoming very funny to me, but
Yeah, I know. I have to excuse myself from the internet sometimes.
yeah, well, it is what it is. All in all, though, I've been very pleased, I think, with feels right now that the community's really come together since the
Yeah.
games, and people seem really happy and kind of excited about the future, And so I'm hopeful. I'm looking forward to talking
Same.
to Don. I want to hear his vision and what he wants to do, and kind of what he thinks is next for the company, what's important to him,
Yeah.
how that's going to impact us, how it's going to help affiliates. For me, that's the big thing. Like, I could care less about what he's going to do at the games. I want to know what he's going to do to help affiliates, and I think that'll be fun.
Yeah, agreed. Totally.
So anyway, yeah, it's just been a kind of weird week.
I agree. Weird week, and it's only Tuesday. Oh my God. That's okay.
I know.
We're going to make it.
Bean says so too. He's right here.
Amazing.
Hey, buddy. I know. Anyway, that's all that's going on with me. I hate that Freya couldn't be on. Well, Spencer tomorrow night. You won't be here, but Spencer will be on tomorrow night. And then we also have Emily Roth. May or may not work because she's in Canada.
Oh, God. Okay. TBD.
These damn Canadians, man.
Man, we got America's hat. We got to get them all down here for this podcast.
Did you call them America's hat? Is that what you said?
America's hat. Yeah.
America's
or
hat has
is the
shitty
U.S.
internet.
Is the U.S. Canada's beard? I don't know. One or the other.
Maybe. I wonder why we keep having this problem with them on the West Coast. That's a weird thing.
I don't know. It's bizarre. And I keep being like, are you in your gym? Does your gym have shitty Wi-Fi? And then they just switch to their actual signal and it's no better.
Yeah, maybe it's the time of day. Maybe they throttle down in the late evenings, or just once everyone's on, it's just hard. Who knows?
Who knows?
Who knows? All right. So you got new chickens.
Right. We got baby chicks. Yes.
How many?
We have 6. I have a girlfriend who ordered too many. And so we got to take some of the overflow. So we've got 4 big girls already in there in the interim coop. Matt is in the process of doing a shed coop conversion project. And then when the little ones feather out in a few weeks, they'll all go back in there together. So more eggs coming.
Man, Brazier Farm. Are you
Dude,
gonna get any other animals? Any other animals? Or just the
No. We've got big plans. So there's this is kind of funny. There's a like decrepit tennis court on the property of this new house.
Yeah.
That's like all broken down. Like there's no clay anymore. It's just dirt. So it's basically just like a big level dirt patch with a fence already around it. So it is the perfect foundation for our barn that we want to get maybe next spring, next summer. And the vision right now, though this might change, is 2 goats, mini goats, and 1 alpaca.
I'm coming to visit. I want to play with mini goats. I'm coming to visit.
Come visit. It'd be so fun. It'd be so fun. I can't wait.
Nothing funnier on video than mini goats. I don't know why they're so funny to me. They're
hilarious. They're hilarious and adorable. And I want to get them all as like little babies so that we can raise them. And
I want to make them faint.
And
fainting goats is the funniest thing ever.
We can get fainting goats. I know they're hilarious.
That'd be the best. Love it.
Oh God. Yeah, it's going to be fun. And Matt grew up on a farm, so he like very much wants to like impart a little bit of that responsibility in raising Hunter to like, get the eggs in the morning, whatever.
Bruce has decided, no, Canada is the U.S. hat and Mexico is the beard. There you go. Yeah, Mexico's our beard.
What are we, just the face?
Canada, yeah, we're the face. Canada's the hat, Mexico's our beard.
Okay, beautiful. I love it. I can
right.
see it. The vision. It's clear.
Yeah, and he knows because he's from Florida, and Floridians know everything.
There you go.
It's true. Okay. They know everything.
Okay.
All right. Anything else, Nicole? Sorry for the weird night.
No, I got nothing else. It was nice to chat. I'm gonna go do baby bedtime.
All right, cool. Well, tell Matt thank you for the 1,000th time for sharing you. Appreciate
it. I will. Hopefully I'll come to you at some point soon, live from my office.
Well, we will.
You guys don't have to hear the kitchen happening in the background.
We will have Spencer on tomorrow night. He's on Ohio Wi-Fi, so it should be good. He's just right down the street. I'll drive down to his house and pick his ass up if I have to.
I was gonna say, you just have him over.
I really should. And hopefully, fingers crossed, Emily later in the week. And then the following week, I forget who we have, Michelle Bassinet, and it's just the other one's escaping me off the top of my head. But we got some good guests coming up. So big fun. All right. Good seeing you. For everyone listening, thanks for joining our little hodgepodge podcast tonight.